Hello viewers, today I would like to talk about a subject that is related to a few of my Claymore videos. I had talked about how surprising it was that in the cathedral in that particular manga there was a mummy in the cathedral, and I had said, I wonder if there are churches, if there are cathedrals that have mummies in them. That seems so very strange. So I decided to do a Google search and to look up instances of mummies actually being in cathedrals, and I was very surprised to find that apparently they are. So that is a very interesting connection. So I suppose we can read these 4 articles about mummies in cathedrals. So, the mystery of the mummy girl in the Guadalajara. I'm not good at Spanish. I'm quite terrible at Spanish. Guadalajara, I cannot even really say that. But anyhow, a mysterious centuries-old mummified girl is one of the most attention-getting people in the historic center of Guadalajara. That I am almost certain that is a bad pronunciation, in Mexico. She's located in the Cathedral de la Asunción de María Santísima. Oh my goodness. I should practice Spanish, to be honest. It is unfortunately I do not know how to pronounce these words, which is commonly called simply the whatever that name is, cathedral in English. The church itself is a major landmark and tourist attraction, with elegant neo-Gothic bell towers that date to 1854, sitting atop a 17th century Spanish Renaissance style building. Multiple earthquakes over the years have necessitated changes and rebuilds on some parts of the cathedral. To be honest, who knows what old weird stuff is in these cathedrals. I do believe I've only went into a cathedral once, and that was a long time ago, when I was an Episcopalian, and maybe some of you know at this point I'm basically sort of a mystic or a Quaker, so to speak. That basically constitutes a good deal of my worldview now, religiously. So I do not really attend any churches at this point. But that is very, very creepy. The cathedral is home to various altars, as well as the remains of 3 cardinals and multiple bishops. There's even the heart of a Mexican president here. Oh my goodness, a heart of a Mexican president. Why did they keep the heart? But it's the mummified remains of one little girl known as Santa Inocencia, or Saint Innocence, who attracts the most curious gazes as well as some of the most passionate prayers from visitors. The glass case containing her body, located near the front entrance of the church, never fails to attract attention. The true story behind how Santa Inocencia arrived to rest publicly in Guadalajara's cathedral is open to debate. Interesting, so they really do not know how this mummified girl is here. Well, I am not surprised. Who knows? Who know of what is going on in so all over the world, especially in these churches, in these old churches and cathedrals. Who knows? I've heard some particularly interesting stories myself that maybe one day I will talk about on this channel. According to one legend, the girl was stabbed to death in Mexico in the 1700s by her father, who, disapproving of her interest in Catholicism, was enraged when she received the Eucharist without his permission. After the father disappeared, neighbors found the girl's body and carried it, still wearing the white dress she had worn for the religious service, to the cathedral, where it remains to this day. Interesting. Very interesting. and who knows if any of these stories are true. Another story, the one told on the small sign in the cathedral, claims the remains of the girl were taken out of a cemetery in Rome in 1786 and sent in 1788 to Don Vicente Flores Alatorre, a Catholic church dignitary who taught divinity at the Guadalajara Cathedral. Flores gave the remains to the Agustinas de Santa Monica convent in Guadalajara after the convent shut down. The diocesan seminary began using the facility in 1869, and seminary members found the little girl's remains in the chapel. The seminary was evicted and moved to the San Sebastian de Anauco. Goodness, I'm not so very good at these pronunciations. Temple in 1915, taking Santa Inocencia along to the new location. When the seminarians were kicked out of that site too, in 1924, the Archbishop de Francisco Orozco Jimenez decided that the body should be moved to the Guadalajara Cathedral. Santa Inocencia took her current place in the cathedral in 1925. Additional information from that line of the story, though not on the public signage, claims that the girl was tortured and killed by the Roman legionaries when Christianity started rising in Europe. Or that she was killed by her father in Rome after converting to Christianity, after which her body was placed in the Roman catacombs before its long trip to Guadalajara. Oh goodness. Today, Santa Inocencia rests doll-like in a white dress and a glass case. Some devout Catholics visit her to pray and ask for miracles. Oh my goodness. Terrible. How terrible these Catholic traditions are. They are some of the worst things. And truth be told, worshipping relics and objects and making pilgrimages, things which Jesus nor the prophets never taught. But interesting. So apparently there are mummies in churches and cathedrals. I was reading Claymore. Any of you viewers who have watched the Claymore series on the channel know that was something that I was very interested in. I was saying, wow, it seems as though they have their own little church cathedral type setting in Claymore, and in that manga they have mummies in the church. And I thought, well, did they add something Egyptian into that story? But I mean, when you look at this, when you read these articles about mummies being in the churches, it seems as though that is a very pertinent connection to make. So whoever wrote that story, I do not know if they know about this, but this is very interesting. That shows that there is sort of a cultural connection here between mummies and churches and cathedrals, which I had no idea about. And I have read something about mummies being in churches as well, so they're not just in cathedrals. And I know that mummification in Europe is a whole subject. They had their own types of mummification. Very interesting. But people are praying to that corpse and asking for miracles. What a shame. In my opinion, I would think a dead corpse is a dead corpse, and that nothing good can really come of a dead corpse at all. So if a person can pray directly to God, why would they pray to, why would they pray to a corpse and ask a corpse for miracles? So they just keep relics and corpses in these cathedrals and all types of weird things. It's so very disturbing. The Catholic churches have always seemed to me to be some of the most creepiest places. So, interesting. Santa Innocencia gained more fame around the globe when, in 2012, a visitor posted a video on YouTube that supposedly showed the little girl opening her eyes. Now, this is morbid. These people, especially these Catholics who are obsessed with old things, dead bodies and crypts and mummies and all types of things that should be left alone. How can that be a sign from God? Do these people really think that God is going to take this dead body of a little girl, who many of us would imagine should rest in peace? No one should disturb this body. Just leave the body alone. Stop making a spectacle of corpses and relics and all of these things. I mean, they have the heart of the president of Mexico over there in that cathedral. Now, for those of you who do not know, Christianity teaches that there are many different types of spirits. And so, to be honest, I think whatever is opening that girl's eyes is not God, it's some type of demon. Now, some of you, peradventure, may disagree, but I do not think that is something good that is happening to that little corpse. That is a shame. That is a little girl's body, and these people, like a bunch of weirdos and sycophants, are just going around and acting very disturbing, in my opinion. It has always disturbed me. I'm glad that I have no association with the Catholic Church. Oh my goodness. And I would never walk into a Catholic church or a cathedral. There are so many different statues and old things that so many of those people just keep around. And it is disturbing. They talk about the statues moving. They talk about bodies moving. All types of weird stuff. Oh my goodness. I do not think that regardless of all of the weird stuff I read and learn about, I still have not been able to find anything more disturbing than Catholic churches and cathedrals. They are very weird places. My goodness. Okay, while that video has likely been doctored to create the dramatic effect, the complete truth about Santa Innocencia's brief life, sudden death, and legendary presence in the Guadalajara Cathedral will likely never be known. Now, it is very interesting. Every time there's some type of supernatural occurrence, most of the press ignore it. They say, oh, it's most likely doctored. That couldn't be real. Oh, sure. That's what we always get from the press. But Christians believe in spirits. We believe in demons and the spirit of God, all of these types of things. So, very interesting. So we have 300-year-old child mummy appears to open her eyes and creep. Okay, this is the same one. This is the same cathedral. Why do they have mummies in these cathedrals? The accidental mummies in the German cathedral, which are now a tourist highlight. My goodness. Visitors to Bremen, Germany have plenty of attractions to see. However, many come for the most unusual sights and stories in the town. The Bleikeller mummies, which reside in the basement of the cathedral, dedicated to St. Peter. Oh my goodness, I do not think that Peter would want anything to do with that place. If they have mummies in the basement, what else do they have in that basement? What else do they have in that basement that they put away and no one sees? I cannot imagine what they have in that basement. I do not even want to think about what they have in that basement or what they do in that basement. I have some ideas. Knowing about the Catholic Church, I have some ideas about what is done in that basement. All of the sort of crevices and cavities of these big churches and cathedrals. It really is disturbing. I mean, I I wouldn't want anything to do with buildings that old. I really would not. Especially when they have such a dubious institution that happens to basically deal in them. Anyhow, discovered in the 17th century according to City Seeker. However, they were not placed there when they were already mummified or with the intention of them becoming mummies. The lineup reports that the basement of the cathedral was used to store bodies, so it's no wonder they were in there. However, the perfect atmospheric conditions resulted in the bodies being mummified over a matter of hundreds of years. Oh my goodness. Really, these people have too much in these churches and cathedrals. So very disturbing. It just so happens that during the renovation of the cathedral, some of the building materials, including lead, were left over. Instead of throwing them away, they were placed in the basement so that they would be ready for future use. I mean, they look so big and grand, but they have dead bodies and all types of weird things in them. Very disturbing. Very disturbing. The lead in some particularly dry conditions caused the bodies being stored in the basement to mummify. According to the Smithsonian, mummification occurs when all of the water and other liquids are removed from the body. The water often acts as a decaying force upon the body, and its absence leaves a dry corpse that will not decompose. Oh my goodness. I wonder if that was intentional, to be honest. I'm not so sure it was an accident. Who knows? In the 17th century art, I did not know how to pronounce that name, Snegger, no, I should not even try, was allowed to use the basement as a workshop for his trade of making organs. When he entered the basement, he stumbled upon the mummified bodies of the bodies that had been stored there. Who would want to make organs in that nasty basement? I imagine it smells terrible in there. While that must have been a little creepy, the site is pretty historical, and each mummy was a different person who was part of the Bremen history. Among the mummies, there is an English countess, a Swedish general, and even a student. It is thought that many of the others were very prominent in the city of Bremen and would have played an important role in the community. How disturbing. All of those people in that basement. There are stories which have likely been lost with the decomposition of their bodies, can now be shared with visitors from across the country and world. Why would you want to share that? That's nasty. I mean, these are dead bodies. These are horrible, horrible, absolutely terrible. There's no respect in that, in my opinion. According to lineup, visitors have been allowed into the site since about the mid-18th century. However, City Seeker reports that it didn't become a popular tourist attraction until 1984. Anyone can visit and see the mummies, learning about their stories and more about the process behind their mysterious mummification. Ew, so nasty. And people want to go and be around these mummies. I would not even want to go to Egypt to see a mummy. Dead bodies, I do not want to be around them. Though the conditions would be difficult to replicate anyway, it's not likely that this church will make the same mistake again. Who knows? Maybe they will. They do so much in those churches. With the modernization of the funeral and burial process, bodies are no longer stored for prolonged periods of time in the basements of cathedrals. The state handles embalming or cremating corpses, and family members can tend to a grave or scatter the ashes where they wish. Another change has come in the use of lead as a building material. Scientists have found that lead has some lingering health risks when used for constructing structures like roofs. Therefore, you are not likely to find piles of the stuff lying around the basement of any building, let alone a cathedral. The mummification of these corpses is truly a unique phenomenon. The process, even when done intentionally, is rare, and the accidental occurrence even more so. St. Peter's Cathedral in Bremen will go down in history as the site of a strange happening. People, as they have done for the last 200 years, will continue to visit and see the mummies. Terrible, in my opinion. Leave those bodies alone. Put them in the ground or something. Awful. I do not like that. The severed head of a martyr now displayed in an Irish church. These people are disgusting. And I mean that. These Catholic people, these individuals are terrible. Truly. Whoever these individuals are, there is something... Oh my goodness, that is disgusting. The severed head of a martyr? There's no respect in that. There really is not. They really think people want to die and have their body parts displayed in the church for a bunch of weirdos to come look at. Those people are weirdos. They really are. They have been placed in glass boxes, and as long as they are not exposed to oxygen, the bodies will remain in pristine condition. If you're looking for a truly strange experience, then visit this cathedral in Bremen, Germany. No, I think not. I will not be visiting that. An Irish church where an 800-year-old mummy is reaching out of his coffin as if to shake hands. Terrible. Oh my goodness. Why do they do this? Oh my goodness, it's just awful. Down a set of dimly lit narrow stone steps in the vault underneath the church lay dozens of coffins. Why? Why do they keep these coffins and dead bodies in churches? What is wrong with these people? Oh my goodness, these people are disturbing, and people come to worship in these churches, people come to pray in these churches. I do not understand why they do it. Oh, it's so disturbing. Why even go to these places? Like dozens of coffins and one mummy ready to shake your hand. The mummies in the basement of St. Machan's Church in Dublin, Ireland, are really only available for viewing because of a loophole in the rules of the church. St. Machan has an interesting history even without the mummies. The foundation of the church was built in 1095 to serve the ostracized Vikings, who were still in Ireland after the rest had been killed or kicked out by Wolf de Quarosum and other Irish forces in 1014. The church was rebuilt in 1686, and a large pipe organ was installed in 1724, on which Handel is said to have first played the Messiah. But all along, as the church changed, the crypt stayed the same, slowly mummifying all that lay within it. There are a number of theories as to why the corpses in the basement have been preserved over time. One is that the basement contains limestone, making the basement particularly dry and therefore good for mummification. Another is that the church was built on former swampland and that the methane gas is acting as a kind of preservative of the bodies. Other theories involve the presence of oak wood in the soil, or the building materials used in the church. Basically, these chemicals, I suppose, dry out the bodies. Yeah, interesting. Regardless of the reason, whatever is preserving the mummies is also disintegrating their coffins. After a certain amount of time, the wood falls away and the well-preserved mummy comes tumbling out. This is where the loophole comes in, for though it would be inappropriate for the church to break open caskets looking for mummies, when the mummies reveal themselves, so be it. The mummies have indeed revealed themselves. While there are caskets strewn about in small nooks in the wall, some coffins are falling apart enough to reveal an arm or leg. The most visible mummies are the big four mummified corpses which have no lids on their coffins and are displayed together. On the right is a woman simply called the Unknown, and well, there isn't much more to say about her. The middle one is known as the thief, and is missing parts of both feet and a hand. Some say the hand was cut off as a punishment. It is believed that the thief later converted and became a priest or a respected man, which is why he is buried in a church, or possibly he was never a thief at all and lost the hand in some other way. Next to him on the left lies a small woman, thought to have been and known as the nun. But the true star here is the coffin, set apart from the others and belonging to an 800-year-old mummy called the Crusader. Though it may be apocryphal, it is believed that he was a soldier who either died in the crusade or returned and died slowly thereafter. This assumes that these were the 4 crusades, the only ones that match with the date of 800 years old. Curiously, the 4th crusades, did they type that right? It says the 4th crusades. It should be crusade. I do not think that should be plural at all, really. Turned into a kind of piratical free-for-all, ending in the sacking of Constantinople without the permission of the church. The Crusader was quite tall for the time, 6.5 feet tall, a giant back then, and his legs had been broken and folded up under him to fit into his small coffin. His hand stretches out of the casket slightly, and visitors were once encouraged to give it a shake. Goodness. The crypt also holds the coffins of the Shearer brothers who were executed by the British, and as was discovered recently, drawn and quartered as well for the rising of 1798. Drawn and quartered means they basically split the body apart and ripped it apart in 4 directions as far as I know. I'm not particularly sure. As well as mathematician William Rowan Hamilton, the many earls of Claymore, and supposedly, though others claim him too, the remains of Robert Emmet, the Irish rebel killed by the British in 1803. The crypt is said to have been visited by a young Bram Stoker, inspiring a certain morbid streak that would later serve quite well for the author. The update, July 2019 and February 2019, the crypt was broken into and desecrated. The head of the 1800-year-old Crusader was stolen, the nun's body was decapitated, and another body was turned over. And Garda Stoshana detained and questioned the man in relation to the desecration and theft. The head and other bones were recovered and sent to the National Museum of Ireland for safekeeping, as they had sustained water damage during the commission of the crime. After undergoing special conservation at the National Museum of Ireland, the skull has been returned and St. Michan's will be open for tours again. It's disgusting that people even tour a place like that, in my opinion. These are dead bodies. I think they should be left alone. I really do. So apparently, this whole thing about mummies in churches and cathedrals, it was far bigger than I thought it was. That is very disturbing. I mean, I do not think that any of this stuff is a good idea. Anyhow, people, that was a very interesting thing to learn. May you be, oh goodness, I've messed up. May the Lord bless you, and farewell.